Welcome back to the deep dive. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, unless you're driving, in which case, please, for the love of safety, keep them open. But if you can, just imagine we aren't in a studio right now. Imagine we're sitting around a campfire. It's late.
Yeah.
The fire is crackling. It's casting those weird dancing shadows against the trees. And, you're just staring out into the dark, wondering what is actually out there.
That is a very specific, evocative mood you're setting. A little spooky.
It is, and I'm setting it for a reason, because today's deep dive is a little bit spooky, a little bit sci-fi, and actually surprisingly funny.
Right.
We aren't just telling ghost stories here. We are attempting to peel back the curtain on reality itself. We are going to talk about what we might call the electrical wiring of the universe.
I like that phrasing. It fits perfectly. We are looking at a text today that really, it bridges the gap between what you might call hard physics and psychology.
Yeah.
It sits right on that uncomfortable, fascinating line between a ghost story and a science textbook.
Totally. And before we jump into the deep end, and trust me, it gets deep fast, we have to get the mandatory housekeeping out of the way.
Necessary bits.
This podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We're here to learn, to explore, and, to question.
And our source material for this exploration is incredibly specific. We're opening up the early sessions, book 3 of the Seth material, which is published by the New Awareness Network. And we're not just looking at the whole book, we're zooming in on session 125.
So put a pin in the timeline. The date is January 25, 1965. It's a Monday night.
A cold Monday night in Elmira, New York, presumably.
Exactly. So we are traveling back in time to listen in on Jane Roberts, who is channeling the entity known as Seth, and her husband Rob. And they are getting this massive download on how the universe actually functions.
They really are.
And let me tell you, the mission for this deep dive is kind of twofold. First, we are going to try and figure out where your thoughts actually go.
Which is a question most people, I think, stop asking after the age of 5. But the answer Seth gives here is, it's profound. It completely reframes things like mental health and memory.
It really does. And second, we're going to go through what is essentially a user's manual for conducting your own energy experiments.
I love that part.
Seth gives practical and honestly kind of hilarious advice on how to do a seance properly. I mean, down to where you should put your feet.
It really is a technical how-to guide for the aspiring mystic. It just strips away all the woo-woo and replaces it with, like, mechanics.
It does. So if you like what you hear today, please do yourself a favor. Go to the source. Visit the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. It's at sethcenter.com for its 7th year early sessions.
Please do.
Support the publisher, buy the books, and read the full sessions yourself. There's so much more in there than we can possibly cover.
Absolutely. We are distilling it, but the nuance in the original text is just unbeatable.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with a question that it's plagued me since I read this session.
Go for it.
We all have thoughts. We have dreams. We have nightmares. We have that embarrassing memory of tripping in the cafeteria in high school.
Oh, yeah. We all have that one.
Right. So when we stop thinking about them or when we wake up from the dream, where do they go? Do they just vanish into nothingness?
Well, if you ask a conventional materialist or a neuroscientist from the 1960s or even many today, they'd probably say yes.
Right. It's just a brain signal that stops.
Exactly. The brain stops firing that specific pattern and poof, it's gone. It's like turning off a light bulb. The light doesn't go anywhere. It just ceases to be. But Seth says absolutely not. In session 125, he is very, very clear. Thoughts, dreams, and emotions have an independent actuality.
Independent actuality. Wow. That sounds heavy. Unpack that for me.
It means they're real things. They exist autonomously. Just because they don't take up space in our physical universe, meaning, you can't put a thought in a box, you can't weigh a dream on a scale, that doesn't mean they don't exist.
Okay.
And this is where Seth introduces this amazing concept of the electrical field.
This is the part that sort of broke my brain. He's talking about an electrical reality that runs, parallel to our physical one?
Parallel isn't quite right. It's more like underneath it or permeating it. He says, and I'm quoting here, "We have been speaking of the electric reality and actuality of thoughts and emotions and of all such experiences which appear to be purely psychological in origin and take up no space in your physical universe."
So my fear of spiders.
It has an electrical reality.
My dream about flying over the city.
Electrical reality. And here's where it gets really fascinating. Seth claims that while these things don't have physical mass, no pounds or ounces, They have electrical mass.
Electrical mass, what does that even mean? So my embarrassing memory isn't heavy, but it has a thickness to it.
In a way, yes.
Hmm.
That's a great way to put it. Imagine it not as a physical object, but as a charged field. Seth says this electrical mass has thickness, but this thickness is defined by varying intensities.
I love that distinction. It's like in our world, if I want to know how big a rock is, I measure its height and its width, right? But in this electrical universe, if I want to know how big a thought is, I have to measure how intense it is.
Precisely. In the physical world, an object's potential is often defined by its size or its shape. A big hammer hits harder than a small hammer.
Right.
But in the electrical world, potential is defined by intensity. Seth puts it beautifully, he says. Depths are contained within this system that are not depths in terms of space, but rather definite depths and dimensions in terms of varying intensities.
That is such a trippy concept, depths of intensity. It sounds like something out of a hard sci-fi novel, but what does that actually mean for us regular people?
Well, it changes how you view your own mind.
Mm.
If you have a really intense emotion, say grief or massive joy, you aren't just feeling it internally, you are creating a massive structure in the electrical field.
You're building something.
You are building something with huge electrical mass.
So if I'm really, really angry, I'm basically constructing a skyscraper of rage in the electrical dimension.
In a manner of speaking, yeah. And that structure has durability, it has duration. Seth mentions that intensity is also responsible for the potentiality, duration, and electrical mass.
Wow.
So a fleeting thought might be like a wisp of smoke electrically, but a deep-seated belief or a recurring dream, that's a fortress.
It makes me want to be a lot more careful about what I spend my time obsessing over.
Right.
If I'm just building these electrical monuments to my own anxiety, that's not great architecture.
It's not. It's practically pollution in your own electrical environment. And Seth drops a little hint here about travel within this environment. He says, in this electrical system, a travel through time would merely involve a journey through intensities.
Whoa. Okay, wait. Let's pivot to that, because the time section of this session was dense. I mean, I had to read it 3 times to really get a handle on it.
It does require a bit of a mental gymnastics routine, for sure.
Okay, so usually we think of time as a line. Left is the past, right is the future, and we are the little dot moving along the line, right?
Correct. That's linear time, the timeline model we are all used to.
But Seth says, hold my beer.
Essentially, he flips the script completely. He describes time not as a dimension of space, but as an electrical impulse.
An impulse, like a heartbeat, or a radio wave.
Yes, exactly, like a wave. Seth argues that the terms backward and forward are basically meaningless in this electrical reality. He says, time is indeed here an electrical impulse that grows by intensity and not by moments.
So it's not about ticking seconds on a clock, it's about the signal getting stronger or weaker.
Exactly that. Think of a light bulb on a dimmer switch, or even better, a radio signal. Seth explains it as a pulsation. He says there are only various electric pulsations of varying intensities, from strong intensity to ever stronger to weaker to fading.
Okay, so help me map this to past, present, and future, because I still remember eating breakfast this morning, and I assume I'm going to eat dinner tonight. So how does that fit into pulsations?
This is the aha moment of the session, really. Seth explains that what we call the past is simply a pulsation that is weak in intensity.
Okay, so the signal is just fading out. It's quieter.
Exactly. What we call the present, the moment you're experiencing right now, is the pulsation at its strongest intensity.
Yeah.
It is the peak of the wave. It's the loudest part of the signal.
And the future. Don't tell me.
The future is a pulsation that is not yet strong. It's building up. It hasn't peaked yet.
So we are basically surfers.
Yes. That is a perfect analogy for it.
We are just surfing the intensity wave.
Seth literally says, you ride the waves of these pulsations. We, as human consciousness, we tune into the strongest signal, and we call it now. The weaker signals we relegate to memory or history, and the building signals we call potential or future.
Wow.
But they're all part of the same electrical system. They're all happening at once, just at different volumes.
That is wild. It implies that the past hasn't gone anywhere. It's just
quiet. Exactly. It's a faint signal, but it's still broadcasting.
And the future isn't some blank void. It's a signal that's getting louder.
Right. It really challenges the whole idea of cause and effect being linear, doesn't it? It suggests everything is happening in this sort of soup of intensities, and our focus just determines where we are in time.
It makes me wonder and this is just me riffing here, if you could change the intensity of your own focus, could you technically slide back into the past?
How so?
Like, if I could tune my internal radio to the weak signal of 1999, would I be there?
Seth hints at exactly that. He says, travel through time would merely involve a journey through intensities. So theoretically, yes. If you could navigate the electrical intensities, you aren't moving back in miles or years. You are shifting your resonance to match that specific intensity.
Man, Journey Through Intensities sounds like the title of a progressive rock album from the
It would
70s.
be a 20-minute track for sure, with killer drum solo.
Okay, so we have established that thoughts are real electrical structures and time is just a pulsing strobe light of intensity.
Right.
But Seth doesn't stop there. He goes into distance. And this is where he brings up the dream analogy.
This is one of the most practical examples he gives to explain this really abstract concept. He starts talking about action.
Right. He says action doesn't take up time. It is a part of time, which is another brain bender.
And similarly, in this electrical system, distance isn't miles. It is distance in terms of action.
Explain that to me. Because if I walk to the fridge, that's distance. I have to move my legs. I have to burn calories. That feels pretty real.
In the physical world, yes, of course. But let's look at the dream example Seth uses. He says, imagine you are dreaming and you walk down a road.
Okay. I'm walking down a road. There are trees, maybe a spooky mist because of the campfire vibe we established earlier.
Right. So in the physical universe, where your body is sleeping in bed, does that road actually exist?
No, of course not.
And is there any physical distance between where you started walking in the dream and where you ended up?
0. I haven't moved an inch under the covers. My Fitbit is very disappointed in me.
Exactly. Spatially, there is no distance. But, Seth argues, the experience of walking, the action of traveling, did that happen?
Yes. I felt it. I saw the scenery change. I might even wake up with my heart racing from the effort.
That is the distance of intensity. Seth says the road would then be an imaginary road of intensity. The action of walking through the dream is a movement through the electrical field.
So when I have those nightmares where I'm falling, you know the ones, where you wake up jerking your leg.
Oh, the classic falling dream. Everyone's had that.
I'm not falling through space. I'm falling through intensity.
Seth literally says, and this is another quote, the distance occurs within the intensity of an action. As to say, you could fall into depths of intensity.
Falling into depths of intensity. That is somehow both poetic and terrifying.
It reframes the whole dream experience, doesn't it? You aren't just hallucinating, you are traversing a real electrical landscape. You are moving through depths that are just as real as physical depth, they're just measured differently.
It makes you validate your internal life so much more. Like, you know when you go through a breakup or a huge life change and you feel like you've traveled a million miles, even if you haven't left your couch?
Yes, that sense of total exhaustion.
Maybe you have traveled a million miles, just electrically.
You've traversed a massive distance of action and intensity. That exhaustion you feel is the result of a real journey in the electrical reality.
Okay, I need to take a breath because my brain is vibrating at a high intensity right now.
Let's ground it a bit. Because all of this high-level theory actually leads somewhere very, very practical.
Yes, let's bring it down to earth. Because what I love about the Seth material, and specifically session 125, is that Seth can go from quantum physics and the nature of time to, hey, here is how you should arrange your furniture if you want to see a ghost.
It is a wonderful juxtaposition. You have to remember, Jane and Rob were experimenting. They had been doing table tipping and seances on their own outside of the scheduled Seth sessions.
Right.
And Seth decides to offer a critique, a performance review, if you will.
I love the idea of a spirit guide giving you a performance review on your seance. Solid effort, Rob, but your foot placement needs work. C+.
That is basically what happens. And the first thing Seth emphasizes is the vibe. He warns against deadly seriousness.
Which is so funny because usually in movies, seances are these super grim, serious affairs. Everyone is tense. The music is scary.
And Seth says that is the wrong approach. He says a deadly seriousness can, but is not necessarily detrimental. But he emphasizes spontaneity. He says you need a momentary lapse of critical attention.
This makes so much sense to me. If you are sitting there staring at the corner of the room thinking, is that a ghost? Is that a ghost? I need to see a ghost. Your brain is too engaged. It's too tight.
Exactly. You are blocking the flow. You need to chill out. Seth explains that psychological conditions are duplicated in the electrical field, so if you are rigid and critical, you create a rigid electrical pattern that blocks the visitor or the phenomenon from forming.
So step one for your spooky evening: relax, have a laugh, don't try too hard.
And step two, the physical arrangement. And this is where we get into the mechanics of the electrical circuit.
The holding hands part, that's classic seance stuff.
Yes. Seth confirms. Holding hands is most helpful. It connects the energies of the participants. But then he gets super specific about the feet.
The feet strategy, this cracked me up when I read it.
He says, the best arrangement would be to have each individual sit with his feet together, and if possible, a circle being made also with the feet.
So imagine this. You're with your friends, you're holding hands, and now you have to play this awkward game of footsie under the table to make sure everyone's shoes are touching.
It sounds incredibly awkward, but electrically, it closes the circuit. You are creating a complete loop of energy. It's basic wiring. If the wire is cut, the current doesn't flow.
Sorry, Steve, I need to touch your ankle. Seth said so.
It's for conductivity. And he's not done. He mentions room dividers.
Oh, yeah, this is weird.
He says sitting in various separated portions of the room usually is a disadvantage, which makes sense, but then he adds room dividers are even beneficial.
Which implies that this energy acts almost like a gas or a liquid. You want to contain it.
Or that the dividers help focus the electrical field. If you are spread out in a giant hall, the intensity dissipates. If you are cozy in a nook with a divider, you build up that electrical mass we talked about earlier. You concentrate the energy.
Okay, so we are holding hands, we're touching feet, we're sitting in a cozy nook. Now, sensory aids. Incense.
This is fascinating because he gives a scientific reason for it. Usually people think incense is just for mood or ritual.
Or to hide the smell of a damp basement.
Exactly, to smell like a temple. But Seth says incense is good from two standpoints, of negative ions from smoke, and also because scent, smelling itself, has an electrical reality.
Negative ions. That's actual science crossover. We know negative ions, like you find after a rainstorm or near a waterfall, have a measurable effect on human mood and energy.
He was way ahead of his time on that. And the idea that scent has an electrical reality ties back to the very beginning. The smell creates a specific intensity pattern in the room that helps anchor the phenomena. It gives the electrical mass something to latch onto.
Okay, what's next? Lighting.
Semi-darkness. Not total pitch black, necessarily, but semi-darkness.
Why? Is it because ghosts are shy?
No. Seth says it aids in dissociation, and the lessening of camouflage data is helpful.
Camouflage data. That's Seth speak for the physical world, isn't it?
It is. If the lights are bright, your eyes are distracted by the wallpaper, the lamp, the cat. If it's dark, your physical senses shut down a bit, allowing the inner senses, the electrical senses, to take over. It's sensory deprivation light.
That makes total sense. Okay, we have to talk about the dress code, because apparently the spirit world has strong opinions on fashion.
They certainly do. It's not just about comfort. Seth suggests dark clothing.
For practical reasons, he says, which is so vague.
But then he gets into color theory. He says red can be a good color to wear under certain conditions. Or violets.
Red and violet. High energy colors at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Possibly related to the frequency of the light. But then he drops the hammer. Yellow should be avoided.
Poor Yellow. What did Yellow ever do to anyone?
He doesn't explain why in this specific session, simply saying yellow should be avoided. That's it.
So if you show up to the seance in a bright yellow sundress, you are ruining the vibe. Seth is going to look at you and just, shake his head from across the dimensions.
You are electrically clashing with the spirits. Maybe yellow diffuses the energy too much or something. It's a mystery.
Seth, the fashion police of the cosmos. I love it.
And finally, the most surprising recommendation of all, alcohol.
Yes. The spirit for the spirits. I had to read that twice.
Seth says, some alcohol in the system is, as I have told you, beneficial.
But there's a big catch.
A very big one. Drinking to excess is not beneficial. It's the Goldilocks zone. Just right.
It goes back to that relaxation thing, right? A glass of wine might help you have that momentary lapse of critical attention.
Exactly. It lowers your inhibitions just enough to stop you from overanalyzing everything, but not so much that you lose focus or, pass out. It helps dampen the critical conscious mind so the subconscious can open up.
So, to recap the Seth-approved party plan: dark room, room dividers, incense burning, everyone wearing red or dark clothes, no yellow, drinking a moderate amount of wine, holding hands, and touching feet.
And not taking it too seriously, laughing a little. being spontaneous.
Honestly. That sounds like a pretty fun Friday night, regardless of whether a ghost shows up.
It does sound like a bonding experience at the very least.
There is one more specific story from this session that I really want to touch on because it hammers home the core philosophy of Seth so perfectly. The tape recorder incident.
Ah, yes. The miracle of the machine. It's such a great story.
So looking at the notes, Jane and Rob had a tape recorder that had been broken for months. Not just glitchy, dead, kaput.
Right, they hadn't used it since July of the previous year. It was a brick,
Yeah.
a paperweight.
And then on a Sunday, the day before the session, they had guests over. They decided to do an impromptu session. On a whim, they pull out this broken recorder. And what happens?
It works. Perfectly.
That one just works. The quality was better than it had ever been.
Superior to any made before, according to Rob's notes. Crystal clear.
So naturally, they think, wow, Seth fixed the recorder. It's a miracle. The spirits intervened.
Which is what anyone would think, right?
Of course. But Seth shuts that down immediately.
He takes zero credit.
None. What does he say?
He says, and this is the kicker, the recorder worked because you wanted the recorder to work and expected it to work. An excellent demonstration, my friends, on your parts, not mine.
You expected it to work. That is the secret sauce, isn't it?
It is the distilled essence of the entire Seth material in one sentence. Consciousness creates reality. It wasn't that Seth reached in with a ghostly screwdriver and tinkered with the wires.
Yeah.
It was that Jane and Rob, in the excitement of the moment with their friends, they suspended their belief that it was broken, and they replaced it with a pure, unblocked expectation that it would work.
It connects right back to the electrical reality we started with. Their expectation wasn't just a wish, it was an intense electrical pattern that overrode the physical reality of the broken machine.
Exactly. They changed the intensity of the situation. They shifted the probability by pure focus and desire.
It's a powerful reminder. I mean, how many things in our lives are broken just because we expect them to be?
And how many things could work if we genuinely deeply expected them to? It's mind over machine. But it requires that lapse of critical attention. If they had sat there thinking, this is broken, this probably won't work, it wouldn't have.
Right.
They were distracted by the guests and the excitement, so they forgot to doubt.
That's the key. They forgot to doubt.
Exactly.
This entire session is just one aha moment after another. It's so packed.
It really is. It takes the mystical and makes it mechanical, and then it takes the mechanical and makes it magical. It's a beautiful balance.
So let's wrap this up with a summary of the key takeaways for our listeners. If you're walking away from this deep dive with 4 main things, what are they?
Okay, here they are in a nutshell. Number 1, your thoughts and feelings aren't nothing. They are electrical mass existing in a field of varying intensities. You are building structures with your mind every single day. So, build something nice.
Right. Be a good architect.
Number 2, time is a pulse. We are surfing the now wave, which is just the strongest signal. The past and future are just weaker or building signals, but they're all active right now.
Okay.
Number 3, distance is action. In the inner world, if you feel like you've traveled, you've journeyed through intensity, and that's a real journey.
And number 4, if you want to have a spooky experience, follow the protocol. Connect the circuit with your hands and feet. Set the atmosphere with scent and darkness. Check your fashion. No yellow. And most importantly, relax your mind.
And expect success. Expect the recorder to work.
Exactly. So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on tonight while you're staring at your own campfire or, just the glow of your phone.
Let's hear it.
We talked about how the past is just a weak electrical signal. We usually think of memory as just replaying a file in our head. But if Seth is right, when you remember something vividly, when you really get lost in a memory, are you actually amplifying that weak signal? Are you, for a brief moment, actually time traveling by increasing the intensity of the past?
And if you amplify it enough, do you stop being here and start being there?
Just don't get stuck in the loop. We need you here for the next deep dive.
Indeed we do.
This has been a deep dive into session 125 of the Early Sessions, Book 3 of the Seth material.
And a huge thank you to the New Awareness Network for publishing these incredible works and keeping them available.
Please go visit sethcenter.com/early sessions. Buy the books. Keep this knowledge alive. It is distributed free of charge here for educational purposes, but there is nothing like owning the source material.
And seeing it in black and white for yourself.
Exactly. Until next time, keep your feet touching, don't wear yellow, and watch your intensity.
Go. Yeah.
There.